You're driving 40 miles per hour in a car with 24-inch diameter tires. How many degrees does the tire rotate in 1 second? We're going to do this using a table, and it's very neat and organized. It's basically dimensional analysis. And before we really get started, what you want to do is establish a couple of things. One, you are probably more than likely going to use all of the given information in the problem. Once in a while, nowadays, even the SAT does give extra information, so just keep your eyes peeled. Two, you want to know, are you going from a value to a value, just a straight up unit, or are you going from one rate to another rate? In this case, we're going from one rate to a different rate. Now number three, I want to establish what rate am I going from and what rate am I going to. So what rate am I going from? That would be right over here, the 40 miles per hour. That's the rate we are going right now, 40 miles per 1 hour. And what rate are we trying to go into? Well, in the question, we want to know how many degrees does the tire rotate in 1 second, or in other words, degrees per second. So that means we are going from miles per hour to degrees per second. So 40 miles per hour, that slant that we use for per when we say miles per hour, is essentially a division bar or a fraction bar. And when we say hour, we mean 1 hour. And we want to know how many degrees per second that is equal to. So let's go and get started. Now, a lot of the time when people have a problem like this, they're a little bit overwhelmed because they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They just see, how am I supposed to go from miles per hour into degrees per second? I don't get it. So what I would recommend is that you try your best to just sort of get started. Okay, just get started and dive into it and do everything that you can to get as close as you can. So I'm going to go from hours. I want hours to reduce or cross out, hours to minutes, and then minutes to seconds. So all my vertical lines represent multiplication, and my big horizontal line basically just represents one giant division. So if I want hours to cross out, I need to have it on top, and I need this to be essentially a conversion factor. So it has to be something, an equivalent statement stacked on top of itself, so that you're essentially multiplying by 1 every step of the way. So 1 hour equals 60 minutes. I can stack that on top of itself. That's allowed. Next, I want to get rid of minutes. So 1 minute, and that is equal to 60 seconds. Now, if I reduce everything I have so far, I'm going from miles per hour into miles per second. That's where I am right now. So we can look at the, not there. Hours reduces with hours, minutes reduces with minutes, and we're left with the unit of seconds in the denominator. So at the end, even though you'll have other things go in the denominator, after all is said and done and everything's crossed out, the only thing left in the denominator for units will be seconds. Now we will pick up where we left off. Now miles. So we already are at seconds. We need to get from miles to degrees. Just go one layer at a time. Miles I want to cross out, so I will have 1 mile in my denominator. That means on top, I know 1 mile is 5,280 feet. You should know that if you're in high school. After that, I am going to go from feet to inches. So 1 foot, trust the process, just push through. 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. So where am I right now? Well, let's see over here. I can cross out the miles with miles. I'm just going to cross out this a little bit differently. Feet with feet. So at the moment, if I do all my multiplying and dividing, I am in the units of inches per second. I need to be in degrees per second. Now, I'm going to break this up just because in class we had a lot of questions. I'm going to break it up into 2 steps, which I don't really think is entirely necessary. I think you could do it in 1 step, but I'm going to get rid of inches. I know that that needs to happen. So a certain number of inches, and we're dealing with a tire with 24-inch diameter. So across the entire tire, it is 24 inches. The radius is 12, diameter is 24. Now, how many inches are going to represent 1 rotation? How many inches will represent 1 rotation of the tire? That is what's going to go down there. Well, that's the outside part of the tire, is it not? And the outside part of the tire is the, did you say it? Circumference is the circumference. So circumference formula is either 2 pi r, or in other words, pi times diameter. And in this case, we have a 24-inch diameter. So the circumference of our tire is going to be 24 pi inches. Now, again, I'm breaking this up into 2 steps. That is 1 revolution of the tire, or 1 rotation of the tire. So that means inches is gone. Inches is now gone. Goodbye inches, goodbye inches. I'm in revolutions per second, and I need degrees per second. So where am I going now? Well, can I get rid of revolutions, and can I get degrees? Revolutions, degrees. 1 revolution of the tire, what number of degrees is that equal to? 360 degrees. So that means that now revolutions is also gone. I would have skipped this step, and I would have just put my degrees, 360 degrees, this like whole part right here. I would have put that directly over the 24 pi inches, because I would say the circumference and the full degree measure of the full rotation, I would use that straight up as a conversion factor. If you don't see it like that, if you want to break it up, you could break it up. So the only things left, actually, yeah, I want degrees per second. So degrees on top, seconds on bottom, and we're good to go. All right, so in a calculator, what you're going to do, the best bet is you're going to multiply everything in your numerator, hit enter, and then individually divide each piece of your denominator 1 by 1, hitting enter in between. Yes, you can do this a different way. Yes, you can still get the right answer. I am just doing this because it will be the way that will work for everyone, despite what kind of calculator they have, okay? So the numbers in the numerator that I would need to multiply are as follows. You should have the same numbers. Obviously, I don't need to do times 1. Then individually divide by each component of my denominator. So divided by 60 for the 60 minutes, divided by 60 again for the 60 seconds. Divide by 24 for the 24 pi, enter, divided by pi, enter. What we get is 3,361.35 degrees per second. So when all is said and done, we get 3,361.35 degrees per second. And that's your final answer. I hope that made sense. Sorry, it's my first time recording a video on an iPad. Degrees per second. And that's your final answer. I hope that made sense. Sorry, it's my first time recording a video on an iPad. And I'll be recording a few more and posting them on YouTube as well. Thumbs up if it helped. Thumbs down if you have no idea what's happening still. But trust the process, just persevere and keep going. If you leave a comment sooner than later and I see it with any requests, I can make that video as well.